Welcome back. My goodness, we certainly, the mess doesn't get any better. It just seems to get worse. What's most on your mind at this moment?
Well, I think because of the nature of the program, we should change the introductory music to Rock Around the Clock.
I do remember that. That goes back a good number of years.
That's Bill Haley in the Comets. I mean,
oh, that's right.
Been?
Oh, my God, decades ago. Oh, my goodness.
56, 57.
Oh, goodness. My God. Seems like yesterday.
It does, certainly. But it wasn't. It isn't.
Oh, it really isn't. I mean, we really have the mother of all messes on our hands in our lifetime. And I think before this ends, Bob, you probably agree this is going to be worse than the Great Depression. Would you go along with that?
Absolutely, and I've said that for a number of years. They were building up to it. They knew what they were doing. They were greed-stricken, power-stricken. They, the people who not controlled government from behind the scenes. And making gazillions just wasn't enough of them. And so now they're going to taste the bitter hemlock of defeat. And that's where we're headed with this thing. One of the startling things that came out the night before last out of Europe was that we had reported earlier, about 6 weeks ago, that the Germans and the French had been printing their own currency. And now they came out and told us that, not that they were doing that, I don't think they want to make an issue out of that, but that they were trying to prepare for some of the participants in the Eurozone that they might leave the Eurozone. And they don't have a plan, and they're trying to put one together now. And that's what cost the stock market almost 400 points yesterday. Today it's up a little bit, but I think it's a reaction from traders doing some buying in shares that they thought were oversold. With that said, all my suspicions have been borne out, terrifyingly so. The euro is going to go down. That's 17 of the 27 members. I think it'll go down in stages. There'll be Greece, and then it'll be Ireland and Portugal, and maybe Italy with them. They're in tragic shape.
Bob, today there's an article in the Financial Times. It's tough to access it online. I try when I see something of interest, and once in a while I can get it. Today I could not, so I don't know what the content was, but it was something about economist Nouriel Roubini saying something to the effect, if I understood just from the little blurb I saw, that maybe Italy is a strong candidate to, because of its troubles, to be exiting the Eurozone. And, of course, we know Greece is the trouble. My goodness, well, another comment about Italy? What do you think about that possibility? I don't know what time frame he's talking about. Again, I couldn't read the article.
Well, Roubini follows on the tail power of other writers, and he always comes up with a scenario that fits the powers that be, that they can live with, so he doesn't get fired from his job as a professor.
Well, he's an establishment economist. He's not a left-wing radical by any means.
No, but Robert Reich is, but he has plenty of interesting things to say. I like reading him. Former advisor to the president, I guess it was Bill Clinton.
Secretary of Labor at one time. Yep, to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, Secretary of Labor. And, unusual that a guy like that would be chosen for a cabinet post, but he was. And I once exchanged an email with him. I can't remember what it was about, but I sent him an email on something, and he answered me. He's teaching out at California. It may be University of California at Berkeley. I'm not sure.
Well, anyway, from time to time he has some very interesting things to say. So I don't discard anything. You know, when people speak, I listen, and if I think it fits, fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it doesn't matter what the caption over their head is. But the point is this, if you look at the situation in Italy, Berlusconi did not inherit an easy job. He put in austerity measures. They weren't good enough. Italy should have never been accepted along with Greece into the Eurozone. I wrote about it 13 years ago, but nobody was listening, as usual. And so what's going to happen? Well, Umberto Bossi, who is the head of a party called the Northern League, has been in the coalition government with Berlusconi and probably his biggest helper, so to speak. And he told him, he says, you got to get out. He said, we got to get a centrist position, and we got to get this thing fixed, etc. The Northern League is what it says it is. It's from northern Italy. And contrary to what people might believe, most of the money in Italy is in northern Italy. And they have the highest incomes in Europe. Most people don't know that. Higher than the Swiss and the Germans. And Milan would be considered their capital, so to speak. But anyway, that was very forceful of Umberto. And so he did resign, Berlusconi. But that's not going to change anything. Back 7 or 8 years ago, the communists came to power for a few years, and they just stole everything that wasn't nailed down. And that really sent Italy over the edge. And then Berlusconi came in. And he inherited a can of worms, just like Bernanke has. And you have to consider their performance in light of that, if you know what I mean. And so, consequently, Italy is going to probably have to drop out of the euro. And their bonds are over 7%. All the austerity measures have been wiped out because of the high interest rate they'll have to pay. And they got to roll all kinds of paper, billions and billions of euros. And on top of that, when you have a change in government, it makes it very difficult to get things going, to get things done. And so it's not going to be an easy job trying to rectify the problems. And there's no money to come from anywhere. And one of the things that the Germans and others are saying, look, we're trying to help, but do you really think that we can bail Italy out, never mind Spain? You know, I told the German government, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 2 years ago. I said, it's going to cost $6 trillion. No, I said $4 trillion. I changed it 2 months ago to 4 to 6. And now they believe me because they changed theirs from $1 trillion to 3.5 trillion. So we're on the same track. And nobody has enough money to do that. They'll bankrupt all of the solvent countries in Europe if they don't let them go under. So better they should take the losses in the bonds. The problem is all the banks are going to go under. And so they'll have to reorganize all the banks and fund them with money that they're going to create out of thin air. And that's not very good because it's very inflationary. So Europe is not going to recover for years. And closing in are the United States and Great Britain. And the same thing is going to happen to them. We're looking at bankruptcy, Jefferson County, Alabama, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Central Falls, Rhode Island, Boise County, and Idaho. And it goes on and on. You haven't seen anything yet. This is child's play. That's why I keep on telling people, with the exception of gold and silver shares, get out of the market. Get out of your bonds. I mean, why would anybody hold a 10-year U.S. Treasury or something like that for 2%. You got to be kidding me. Inflation is 11.4, 11.6. You deduct 2%, what do you got? 9.6 as a loser? I mean, is safety that important? Or perceived safety? No, it's not important. You get out and you go to gold. Gold and silver coins, bars, and shares. And that's the only way you're going to protect yourself.
Oh, I agree with you, Bob. And again, the situation is dismal. They can delay the inevitable day of reckoning by throwing money at it. But if a country like Greece and Spain, I mean, these are big countries. Not Greece, Italy and Spain. Italy is Europe's third biggest economy after Germany and France. But even Germany may be an economic powerhouse, but its major bank, Deutsche Bank, I believe Deutsche Bank is insolvent. Is that right?
I think it is, yes.
So if Deutsche
all the
Bank,
French banks, the big ones, are insolvent, and the Landesbanks, which are really savings and loans in Germany, they're all broke. And what broke them? The bonds that they bought from Wall Street. And they have suits now against Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, et cetera. And they're gonna prevail in those suits. In fact, GS just set aside, it was $2.5 billion this morning for those and other suits. I mean, the criminality is unbelievable. I mean, calling triple B bonds triple A bonds, there's no difference. It's a difference between the triple A being a 10 and the triple B being a 3 or a 4. And what I can't understand, and I've said this from the very beginning, 60% of those bonds were sold to European institutions. Didn't anybody read the fine print? Didn't anybody look at what was contained within those bonds? I can't believe that all the accountants and attorneys and analysts in Europe overlook that. I just can't. I think the Treasury made a deal with the European banks. We'll bail you out. If you get in trouble, just take this garbage from us.
Bob, I think that's exactly what went on. I can't believe these people were stupid and they bought junk blindly. I mean, we're talking about sophisticated people in these major institutions across Europe. I agree. I think you nailed it. I think the fix was in, and the bankers, the Wall Street bankers, you know well, I mean, they don't care if they get in trouble because they know the taxpayers will bail them out. And if the European banks get in trouble, if the ECB or the other financial capacity of the various nations, if they can only do so much but not enough, well, the Fed will print money and ship it over to them and bail out the European banks too. I mean, the whole system is corrupted and rigged, and people get stuck with the bill and austerity measures with massive layoffs and pay cuts and benefits literally abandoned, and this is going on. And Greece really is the epicenter of it all, because, I mean, Greece really is in horrible trouble. I've used the line in a couple of articles that the country is bankrupt, only its obituary hasn't been written. I mean, literally, I mean, Greece, they ought to change the name. I mean, Greece as it was, doesn't exist anymore. It's like Iraq after America came in and destroyed the country and occupied it. The cradle of civilization doesn't exist anymore. They ought to change the name of the country to something else. So Greece, I mean, this small country, and the people have been ravaged. And I mean, you get some angry folks over there. I think if there's a spot to really ignite a revolution, Bob, that if it happens in Greece, it could spread. But I think the spot to ignite a real one, where people simply are not going to stand it anymore, and if the politicians won't help, and now they know they won't, I mean, they're going to go in and haul them out and get rid of them. Violently if necessary, and there may be a lot of cops there, but there aren't as many cops as people, and you get a million of them mad enough, and those cops will just be swept away, and very possibly we could see a violent revolution happen in Greece.